Hello.
Hi, my name is Elmer. Am I calling Cher?
Uh, yeah. I mean, share is like just a bunch of volunteers, and I'm one of them. Yes. What can I do for you?
Hi, my name's Elmer. I'm calling from the University of Missouri, and I'm just trying to gather
Okay.
some information about the homeschooling process and from different support groups. Would you be willing to answer a couple questions for me?
Okay. What you want to know?
I guess what my first question is, what do you find is the primary reason families decide to go through the homeschooling process?
Oh, it varies. I mean, I've been in the homeschool movement since the early '80s. It's pretty much 99% Christians who just didn't like some of the things they were beginning to see in public school, and they couldn't afford private school, and anyway, so it was pretty much people prayed about it and said that they just feel like the Lord's leading us to do it.
When I mentioned that I was homeschooled, I always had to follow it up with like, I'm not evangelical, like I'm not I'm not religious. I have to say that because that is such a common stereotype.
Oh yeah, so many people, they immediately go, oh, religious nut. It's like, no, we're not a religious nut family.
Number one is that I was in Ashland until I was 7, and Ashland's a very small town. It's very redneck, and the school is not good. And so my parents didn't want me to have a bad education or to be around these like really intense cliques. And I think part of it is that they knew that I was kind of quirky and weird, and they wanted to kind of preserve that. And then the other half of it is that
I worked weekends and it took me 10 years to have her, so I was not about to send her off to have somebody else, be with her all day. Right. So, until she was old enough, I always told her, when you felt like going to the school in town, just say so. So one day we were having lunch and she goes, I think I want to go to the school in town next year. I said, okay, let's go get you registered.
What do you think are some of the other common misconceptions about the homeschooling process that are just not true?
Socialization, for sure, because these kids are very well socialized, and they do. There's this little joke among homeschoolers that, it's called homeschooling, and we haven't been home once this week. It's a crock. It really is. They are very well socialized.
She's a loner.
I was really lonely, and I was also an only child, and so there would be points where I would just be like, I want friends. Like when there's little kids and they pick out their clothes and they don't match and they don't look right. I never really grew out of that stage until I went to 9th grade and people were like looking at me weird. And then I realized, oh, these are weird things to be wearing together.
Now, it's not as bad as back in the early days, when I was homeschooled in the '80s. I mean, our Missouri law, and every state has its own homeschool law.
Right.
And they vary. In some states, you have to report to authorities. You have to have somebody come out to your house. You have to have them approve your curriculum. In Missouri, we are supposed to be logging technically, but we have nobody to show it to.
I didn't have to register with nobody.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in Missouri, you don't have to register with nobody. You don't have to prove that your child, that you taught them, anything.
For me, there would be some part, like in English, I enrolled in regular 9th grade, like English, not honors, and I was very far ahead everyone else. But there were some things that were so basic that I didn't know. Like with science, my dad did the best that he could, but there were just some things with science. Like I did not know anything about like mitosis or meiosis or cell division, but I knew like every leaf in Missouri. Like I knew those things because my dad would take me on like nature walks every Monday, and like we would like, he had like a book of like different leaves, but I knew absolutely nothing about like chemistry or like that water was H2O. Like I didn't.
If you would have asked me this, 20 years ago, I would have said, thank you. We are very accountable. We're accountable to God. Now, not so much. I would like to see a little bit more accountability, not a whole lot more, but just a tad more maybe. I certainly don't think anybody should come in and approve your curriculum. That's stepping above parental rights. I don't know. I really believe in homeschooling. I really believe in it, and I don't want to see the movement threatened. That's why we go to Jeff City once a year for a homeschool rally, and to let our reps know that don't mess with us, So I think I lean more towards don't mess with the law. We'll take care of it ourselves.
A no checks homeschool system allows parents to just mold their kids into whatever they want. And sometimes that means that the kid becomes a lot of very creative and very relatively well adjusted. But on the flip side, it means that some kids never see any other viewpoint than what their parents have. I don't think that I would homeschool my kids because I wouldn't put them in a public school either. I'd probably try to find more of like an independent liberal school almost. Because again, I was so lonely. And part of that was the fact that I was living in a rural area, and part that was just me not having any siblings. But it's just kind of lonely being in the house all day. And it's difficult for my parents. Like, it was really hard for my mom because she had to work all the time on the weekends, and then she was teaching me on the weekdays, and it was really rough. And the first couple of years, she was stressing me out, and she was stressing herself out, and I had a really bad nail biting problem, and I was really nervous all the time. And my mom had to like reevaluate everything, and that was just a lot for her to do. And I think that it was worth it for her, and I liked the way I turned out pretty much. But it's just not a task that I think I could take on myself to do it right.
Well, Kathy, thank you so much. Again, I can't say thank you enough, and I appreciate your time.
You're welcome. All right.
All right. Have a good day, Kathy.
You too. Bye-bye.